Hi everybody, and welcome to another video. And I thought I'd run through some of my collection. I just wanted to explain a few things to you. So here we've got big folders that I put the large articles in from stuff like New Musical Express and Melody Maker, the double page ones, and I'll obviously go through those in a minute. And in here I've got some colour photos from a variety of magazines. Pop Swap's one of them here, Music Star another one, and these were prolific in the 70s. There were loads of them. I didn't buy them all, but I bought as many as I could. Some of the smaller articles I put in a folder this size, simply because it's much easier. In addition to that, I used to have scrapbooks, as you probably know, and you might have seen on my Twitter account. So where I've got this sort of thing with a couple of scrapbook pages here, I've actually taken the scrapbook pages out of my scrapbooks and put them in these folders. I didn't risk peeling off the original article from the scrapbook page simply because it might get destroyed. These Mirabelle columns he did every week anyway, in every one of every issue of Mirabelle, and there were loads and loads of those. So I have kept them onto the scrapbook page, and they're glued on, and they were glued on in the year that I bought them, so that would have been sort of 73, 74, that sort of time. So I didn't take them off, and I'll just give you another example of that. There, for example, there's a couple of postcards, and again it's on a scrapbook page, so I've left them alone. I just don't want to risk taking them out. So a lot of these smaller articles, like that, I put in these smaller folders in polythene so that I can see them. They aren't in order in this one yet, in year order, roughly, but not exactly. There were a lot of these as well about from girls' magazines and teeny bopper magazines where they just featured him on one page. So that's just an example of what I did, and the full page ones fit in beautifully. This is from Disc, because this is May the 11th, 1974, and these fit in here absolutely beautifully. But as you know, Melody Maker and NME were much bigger, so I had to progress to this size scrapbook, which is much larger. And obviously on this one I've got some pictures of Bowie, as I explained just now, and I'm just going to go through this scrapbook with you now. So on this side I've got the original advert for Ziggy Stardust and the Spider from Mars, and this is for the album. And can a young guy who went through truly incredible changes and made it all hunky-dory ever find true happiness as a starman? So that's quite a good quote there from that one. And on the opposite page over here we've got a review of Ziggy Stardust. And that's the album Ziggy Stardust, of course, and it's an absolutely amazing review. One of the best reviews it ever had, actually, this one. Of course, there's nothing Bowie would like more than to be a glittery superstar, and it could still come to pass. By now, everybody ought to know he's tremendous, and his latest chunk of fantasy can only enhance his reputation further. So that was an amazing review. We've also got just a little bit of a headline here of Bowie and Mott the Hoople at Festival Hall. And this is June the 10th, 1972, and that's NME. So moving on over here, and this is an article about glam rock and how it's rising up in the UK, and T-Rex sell-out concerts, and Bowie's on the road. And over here we've got a 1972 advert for David Bowie here at Friars, and Flaming Groovies are supporting him, and that's NME, and that's June the 10th, 1972. So moving back down here, we've got a review here of a Bowie gig, and the reviewer says, the last time I saw David Bowie was 6 months ago when he was playing a purely acoustic set, and although I'd heard his new album, I still wasn't quite prepared for the onslaught of rock. So that's a great review as well, and about how Bowie had changed since the last gig. And this is NME, and this is June 17th, 72, this one. Roxy Music here, going to support David Bowie. That's just a very brief snippet of that. And then he starts making the covers of a lot of music press. So we've got NME over here, and an interview with David Bowie. And this is July 22nd, and that's 1972. And it's a very comprehensive interview with Bowie, actually. So we'll just turn over that. and David Bowie in the Dorchester Hotel here, and this is part one of the interview, and quite a string of photos along the bottom here. And this is where he's come back from America. This is July 22nd, 1972. He's returned to the UK, and the press are on him straight away. So he's just done a brief American tour. And this was published in two parts. So NME did part one on July the 22nd, and part two on July the 29th, 1972. And it carries on. It's Charles Shaar Murray does the interview. And Bowie says, "I like to see people pretending." Then there's a little letter here from a fan who says that Bowie's not new, that actually they've been following him since 1964, and it's about time he was recognised for his talent. So that's what that one says. And that would be in the same issue as this, so that would have been July 29th, 1972 there. So moving on. And then we've got the Rainbow gigs in the summer of 72, August. And that's just a review of the Rainbow gigs, which was very groundbreaking because they had a lot of dancers in it. Lindsay Kemp's mime troupe and all that sort of thing. Lots of ladders and platforms. And John I'm Only Dancing, the advert for the new single over here, and some Bowie tour dates here as well, and advertising Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust. Then he did a gig at the Hard Rock in Manchester, and there were two different adverts for this. There's the first one, and that's September 2nd, 72 NME. And this one over here is September the 2nd, 1972, and I think that was Melody Maker from what I remember. So two different adverts. And in the same issue of NME for September 72 is a review of John I'm Only Dancing, which is here. And by pure coincidence, they also reviewed Hang On To Yourself by Arnold Corns. So John I'm Only Dancing got absolutely hammered. I'm really surprised that a man with such monumental talent couldn't come up with a more solid offering. And that's one of my favourite Bowie songs of all time. They hammered there. And Hang On To Yourself doesn't get a bad review, actually. They say it's pretty good. But as I said, that's Arnold Corns, not David Bowie as such. Moving on. So we've got, this is an America special, so Bowie's now over there. It's December the 2nd, 1972. And that's just a report of him in America. And a Hard Rock with Yes and David Bowie. Here's a little advert for the gig. And Bowie doing more dates, just some added tour dates. Down the bottom here we've got a report of Bowie again in America, where Star Trek meets the Clockwork Orange. And Bowie's back, which is basically advertising his return to the UK for his Christmas Eve show at the Rainbow Theatre in London, and a string of other dates there, and of course advertising his albums. And as I said, these are all original articles. And the latest single, The Gene Genie, is advertised here as well. So fine, I'll do this page and then we'll cut to another one. So Gay Gorillas and Private Movies, one of the most famous Bowie headlines of all time, and it's NME, and it's February the 24th, 1973, and it's an interview with Charles Shaar Murray. He says some strange things in this interview, does Bowie, but I have tweeted the article, so you want to look back through my tweets, you can probably see it in detail here. And it continues here as well. Goodbye Ziggy, and a big hello to Aladdin saying Ziggy goes to America basically, and you can see the development of Ziggy Stardust, longer hair, flashier clothes, Japanese influence, all that sort of thing. And over here apparently he bumps into Stealers Wheel, the band from the 70s at the time, and he doesn't even say hello to Stealers Wheel, and they get a bit funny about it, so I don't know what happened there, but he obviously wasn't feeling very talkative. So that's that one, and I'll continue with part two of this one very shortly. There's a few pages to go, and thank you for watching.